ways of remaining fit as you grow older. As you know, the physiology of aging is that you lose bone as well as the muscle mass, which are very important to remain um, fit as you grow older. And you need to fight that out, the losing of the muscles and losing of the bone. And there are various means of doing that. And the exercise would really depend on what you are used to, I think, when you are younger. I think that would be my simple advice to people who want to get into the fitness lane if they've been unfit. For example, all of us have been in school um, doing various exercises, or PTs as we used to call physical training. That physical training itself is a very good starter. If you can remember, those looked very simple movements when we used to do them, and we used to perhaps not do them properly or used to laugh it off. But those are exactly the movements which will keep your joints supple and moving. So I'm sure you know what those exercises, we call them as, I think, stretch exercises, and various names are given, but essentially they require taking your all the joints from head to toe to a complete range of mobility. I think this is the most important message I would want people to have, that the mobility or the range is number one. Unless your joints have got the mobility, the muscular addition doesn't really help you. So do not try to have, let's say, don't go for weightlifting if your shoulders are hurting. That would be a wrong thing to do. It means that you've got something in your joints or in the ligaments which is not right, and that needs to be sorted out first. So I think from fitness point of view, the mobility by simple stretch exercises would be priority number one. Then after that, you can add on to various exercises, which both you can go by there are YouTube videos are there. There are also physiotherapists who can help you. And then you should gradually increase your strength, power, etc. Maintain whatever I mentioned as the mobility and a slight sort of cardio work. So I used to cycle in the mornings fairly early. I used to be scared of the BMTC buses, which would ply generally after 6:30 or so, and the traffic. So I used to finish my rides by 6:15 or so. It was only when I joined one cyclothon, which was organized in 2010, where we had to go to Whitefield for 25 kilometer. That was my first thing in around 2010. That broke all my inhibitions and fears, or whatever you want to say. And from that time onwards, I started regularly cycling for even commuting. I was not commuting earlier, and in fact, now cycling is the only mode of commuting which I'm doing. I don't use car at all, and I don't have any other two-wheeler. So cycle is the means. And basically, my work, which earlier I have reduced my work schedule, but between 2010 and 14, I used to cycle every day about 25 kilometers, which would be between 3, 4 hospitals, and which would be all over the place. For example, I used to go to St. Martha's Hospital, which is in the middle of the town. I stay in JP Nagar, which is Bangalore South, and I used to go up to Shivaji Nagar, and on a daily basis or alternate day basis. So I mean, it would involve a commute of about 25 kilometer at least a day. I would say the cycling takes you back to your childhood, which is the great thing about cycling. And I use every opportunity to cycle anywhere. So if you have not learned cycling, then people like us can help you in terms of, we have got volunteers who are well used to teaching people who have got fear of falling, of all ages. fear of falling does not really restrict itself to elderly people. We have had very young people who are also very scared, and we have got very elderly people who are not scared at all. And the amount of time people will take to learn is very variable. So we really do not go by any rules that you need to learn in so many days or so much time or whatever. And as usual, I give the famous example of my wife. It took 1.5 years and about six different types of cycles for her to crack it. So it really varies. And regarding how to start it in your own circumstances, first of all, you must have a cycle which you are comfortable with, and you must be knowing how to check simple uh, fact checks about how much is the air pressure, is there enough air in the your tire, are the brakes working or not, is the cycle chain okay. Now, if you cannot do it yourself, make sure there is somebody else who can do it for you. That's possible. That means somebody will be able to check up a bike for you. Then you should have what is called as a bike fit, which means you should be comfortable on the bicycle. If your saddle is too low or too high, then it's not a good idea, because it can strain your joints and your back, etc. uh, and you shouldn't really ride in a in the daytime very early. I mean, in the peak hours. Choose your areas which is like a spots which are relatively quiet. There are many um, like gated communities which have got large spaces which are paved. You should have a paved road. It shouldn't be an unpaved road. And ideally, you should have one person who's fit, who can run with you. That means because you will be pedaling, and the person who's going to be with you shouldn't be your age, who cannot run. So you will have to seek, someone who can run and hold you if you are likely to fall or whatever. So uh, that's important that you start slow. The idea is don't rush in a traffic. Bangalore Bicycling School, it started with a very simple idea of like-minded people on Bangalore Bikers Club, uh, which is a group of cyclists. It's a Google group, and we share our experiences and we ride together, short rides, long rides, etc. And out of that, a few people have they made it like a formal thing. And when the Cubbon Park was opened up to only pedestrian and no motorized vehicles were allowed on Sundays. That's the time we saw an opportunity, and we capitalized on that. And it's now it's completely free. We don't charge, and we teach people on every Sundays in the morning from 7:30 to 9:30. And we normally have our own cycle. At least a foldie is available. The advantage of a foldie is because it has got a smaller wheels. It's only 20 inches as against 26 or 27 inches of a standard bicycle. So the center of gravity is low, and people who are riding, they feel less threatened. So that's the advantage of riding on a low bicycle to start with. The other advantage is, of course, the height of the foldie handle is like a normal cycle. So you have an advantage of a normal grip and normal posture, but also with an advantage of a low center of gravity. And we have been able to teach a lot of people with that. We find we have got a slope surface. Our routes are all well established now, where we would sort of teach people. And we are also open. We did try the satellite points, because that was one of the complaints, that people did not want to come all the way to Cubbon Park to learn. But only problem with that is you really require a dedicated team who will be able to come week after week and teach people. And unfortunately, both on that count as well as on people keeping their appointments, there are many a times volunteer would go and there won't be anybody there. So that sort of, your 2 hours are gone. So that has, not allowed other centers to continue. But at one stage, we had 4 centers and we don't mind. We are open to starting more. Regarding rental, there are lots of cycling companies which would rent out cycle. Of course, earlier when Yulu and the pedal and all were available, those were the best way to really rent, because you could rent for a very limited time, and those were cycles were very so robust in terms of having any accidents, etc. So, but there are, if you can Google it, there are people who will rent you a cycle maybe for a month for as little as 600 or 800 rupees. And you can even buy second-hand cycles which are relatively cheap. And only thing is, again, take somebody with you who knows how to look for a good cycle. Don't go only on your own if you are going to buy a second-hand cycle. I think most important thing when you want to buy a cycle, first of all, you must know for what purpose you are going to use that cycle. So different people have different reasons for cycling. There are people who would want to cycle long distance. There are people who would want to go for riding on a non-paved roads. That means which are really, so the cycle for a non-paved road is a MTB cycle. If you want to race, then it will going to be a drop bar cycle. If you want to use only for commuting in the city, then there are cycles which are called as hybrid bikes, which have got upright posture like what most of the people we have. And so they are not stressing your back. So again, it is better to have somebody. There are some stores which are very good, which will guide you through this. For example, I think Decathlon has got a very good reputation of guiding people who don't know anything about the cycle as to what would be the best thing for them. But again, don't buy on the first hunch. Think about it, speak to people. We are there, we are open to questions. And I told you the Bangalore Bikers Club, which is there on the Google group, this is one of the most frequent question which we keep getting as to which bike to buy. And they all will give you the appropriate advice. And my suggestion would be that you should have a good bike fit, which is again available in good stores. If you want to go for ordinary bikes, Indian bikes, you can buy those also. But generally, you will not get these sort of counseling and the after sale service. You will have to fend for yourself. You can't depend on the stores. There are also stores which are boutique stores which are there in Bangalore, and I'm sure they're there in most of the town where upper high-ended bikes are available. For example, Trek or Specialized and Bergamont. So these are very expensive bikes, and I would say that they should be only used by those who have used the initial bikes, the entry level bikes in the beginning. So it depends on your budget also. I mean, there are good bikes available from 6 or 8,000 rupees, and they can go up to 1.5 lakh. So, it's a huge market there. And the most important the cycling requires is that you need to maintain the bicycle in the middle on the two small, tires yourself. That means it's a sense of balance. Now, sense of balancing is a very important part of um, our movement, our activity. And I think cycling that way is excellent because you need to have not only the sense of movement or balance, but you need to have a reasonably good eyesight and the hearing power too, so that you keep your eyes and ears open all the time while you're cycling. What I mean is when you're sort of commuting, and that I think I'm sure, I don't know, again, there are no really studies which would say that will help you or it helps, but I'm sure that will keep your reflexes, your muscular ability, agility for a much longer period than if you don't cycle. If you're doing only stationary exercises where there is no threat to your sense of balance, probably there is likely that those pathways may not remain as active and agile at a later date. So that would be one advantage. Also, you are grounded with Mother Earth. Now, that's the most important advantage with cycling, that you are directly connected. And if you become adventurous later on, and if you move out, of course, this is now with COVID era, we are not really advising people to go for long distance cycling and all. But that is a great thing about cycling, that it really makes everybody equal on at the level of the ground. And so you mix with people, you are exposed to various foods that definitely improves your immunity as well, because you will have to drink water if you're on a long distance. You'll have to you take water from any dhaba or any place, and so you're basically getting a robust immunity as well when you start cycling and exposing yourself to various food joints, etc. So apart from that, there is also an improvement in the interpersonal skills also, because you come, when you cycle, generally you would like to be with a group. Again, the dynamics of group are fantastic. And especially when you have younger members of the group, their lingo is very different, their enthusiasm is very different. And so I think that brings some enthusiasm in um, aging brains also. And as I said, there are people who are elderly, but they have no fear. And both, I mean, we've had at least some sort of very notable people in terms of their age, and they did very well actually. And I think the fear of falling, that is one of the most important thing, which prevents people from learning well. Or so you you may fall, but the point is that you know how do you really recover from the fall in terms of your mental makeup? That's the most important thing. So there are people, for example, I have sent you a photo of actually Anusuya, who she had a fall, but so matter of factly, just like a small child. She's 64, but she got up and and she started cycling again as if nothing had happened. So I wouldn't say that you won't fall. I think it would be wrong for anybody to say that we can guarantee that you won't fall. That is wrong. And I think basically fall but move on. You will have accidents in so many areas. You can fall in your bathroom. That doesn't mean you won't go to bathroom. You will have to go to the bathroom. So there are people who fracture. In fact, that is one of the commonest place where people injure themselves. They slip in the bathroom. So your chances of injuring in your home are much higher probably than in cycling if you're doing it safely. The one which I remember the most is actually uh, her. Her name is Som Datta. So she is a lady who came all decked up. She was slightly plumpish, and where we started the usual way. So our usual way is we hold the bicycle. The cyclist is we show them how to get on the pedal, how to do the start, and then we are balancing them from the back by holding the what is called as a carrier. That means on which you would normally put all the luggage and all. That is the way we balance, and the handle has to be uh, done by the cyclist himself or herself. So Som Datta flatly refused. How can there be no other person in front? I am not going to cycle like this. I want somebody in front also. I said, no, Som, you will learn. Don't you worry. This. So that was very hilarious. And of course, she learned so beautifully, and she cycles actually to her work as well. So she was a surprise. I thought that we are in for a trouble here. It boils down to a good lighting and a good eyesight. And you should be able, when you cycle, apart from the balancing skill, there is another skill in the balancing which is very important, is what is called as the signaling or a hand signal. Because a cyclist doesn't have the indicators. So people will, a cyclist is a road user like any road user. And so all the laws apply to a cyclist as a road user to as any vehicle. So it is very important that the people who are coming from behind should be very clear as to what are you going to be doing as you are riding on the road while they are behind. So don't do things which are sharp. My example, what I always give you, that there are two principles. One is a cow principle and another is a dog principle. So cow principle is, cow, you must have seen on the road how it will cross the road. It decides to go and it moves, and it continues moving in the same direction without any change in the speed or any change of the direction. So anybody who's coming from behind side, they will have to adjust to the cow. Cow will not adjust to them. So I tell my cyclists that you need to be a cow on the road. Don't be a dog. A dog, you will see when he wants to cross the road, he will look right, he will look left, he will go halfway, he will go back. So it's the dog which gets hurt because person who's riding doesn't know what this dog is going to do. So that's the advice I would give to all the people who want to cycle on the road. Be a cow. Make sure that people coming from behind know exactly what you are doing. If you want to slow, you show the hand signal. If you want to turn right, you show the signal. You should be able to show the signal. If you want to change the lane, you should see behind and change in the lane. There are also mirrors available for cyclists also. You can use them if you need, but I don't use mirror. But there are people who regularly use mirror and, for safety's sake. You should be visible very clearly. So don't wear clothes which are very dark if it is going to be very early morning or late evening by the time you return. Ideally, you should have a reflective jacket with you if you are going to be riding in the morning. And you should really have a good light if you are going to ride at night. So at least you are visible, both the back light as well as the front light, so that people can see you and avoid you. These will be the safety things which you will need to do. About really potholes is, I think you will have to know the area where you are riding when you want to do any new activity. And if there is anything which is really bothering you, then yes, you should go to a doctor, a physiotherapist, or an orthopedic surgeon, get that sorted out, do exercises which have to be done for the strengthening of the muscle, the back muscles, etc. And I think the same rules apply for really any sport. I don't think cycling, you can single it out in a day. If you want to run, let's say you want to take up some running at 50 or 60, people do run. I know people who have started running after 65. So I think that the same things would apply. That just do it in such a way, and you must listen to your body. I think that would be the most important thing I would like to stress. Whenever your body is complaining, stop doing whatever you have been doing while it's complaining. Identify what you are doing not right, what is not correct. If you feel that, so there are ways by which you should have a bike fit done. There are centers which will do a good bike fit for you, whatever may be your age. And it basically depends on the height of the saddle, the frame which you are using. These are the simple things by which, and they are there on the net everywhere as to how you should be doing your bike fit. But one way, one word I can say is that you should be able to have your leg almost extended fully when the pedal is at 6 o'clock position at the bottom of its turn. So it should be only about 5 degrees bend. If you are having more than 5 degrees of bend at the knee, then it means that your seat is too low and you should raise your seat. The commonest fault is people keep seat very low because they are afraid of falling, and they feel that the seat is low, they can keep their feet down and they will not fall. This is absolutely wrong. You should know how safely stopping. That is one of the most important things most of the cyclist learners do not know. And the safe way to stop is that you apply the brake first. When the cycle has stopped, lean to the left, put your left foot down. This is as simple as that. There is nothing complicated about, and this is exactly how you will start also. When you start, you will be leaning towards the left, your left foot will be on the ground, the right one will start pedaling, and as soon as right has pedaled, left will get lifted and you will be in balance and you will move. So the rules of stopping are very simple. If you try to keep both feet down, that's not a good idea. So you must relearn how you are stopping. So there are, like anything else, like in swimming, if your strokes are not good, your instructor will tell you what you are doing wrong. So exactly the same thing should happen even for cycling, that learn again. If if there are some people who can teach you in your city, Bangalore, we are there may be many more people in your area who will be willing to teach you, and learn cycling properly. Then your injuries or etc will be much less. Generally it is your poor fit and poor posture. Many people hold their body very stiff while they are cycling, while they are learning. So that is one of the cause for injuries as well.